What you're about to experience are my opinions and truths. I'm suggesting they're possibilities for you to consider, in which you can then come up with your own logical conclusions.
Did we get on that? I had one.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, fellow decoders around the world, wherever you may be, my name is Logan, your tour guide, and this is Decode Your Reality, and today we're going to be breaking down and decoding the September 11th attack on New York City. This will be the astrological breakdown. So if you're a fan of astrology, I'm going to break it down using the true map of the stars. I'm going to back it up and I'm going to support it with a lot of information. But if you're somebody who's a decoder, it's going to go way beyond the astrological, and that will be the best material. And what I'm going to show you here today is a scripted reality. Scripted meaning mankind is not in control of this reality. And I will support that throughout this entire presentation. So let's begin. The methodologies that I'll be using, for those of you that may be new, these are the methodologies that I use. I've been using with over 500 videos now, and the list keeps getting bigger and bigger. So this is in no particular order. From left to right, at the very top, we have mathematics. And we're going to get into some polygonal shapes and what those have to do with our reality. Going to be bringing some theology into this because the event on 9/11 was absolutely theological. We're going to be bringing in one of my favorites, the science of numbers, numerology, breaking down the letters into numbers. We're also going to be bringing in, to get images, the playing cards. These I call the cards of illumination. You may have heard them referenced as the cards of destiny by my friend Sharon. Excuse me. And then we're going to be bringing in the co-partner to the cards of illumination, the mighty tarot, to get the picture. And we're also going to be talking about some science and alchemy and this magnificent system that seemingly makes up our entire reality. And we're also going to be talking about some astrology. Of course, that's what this main base is going to be running around, is the astrological chart above. And then last, but certainly not least, some logic and common sense. Now, again, ladies and gentlemen, if you're new here, don't just dismiss the information that I'm going to be showing you, but consider it. And then do your due diligence. Don't just stop here. Go watch a few more of my other videos. I got over 500 and covering so many different people, places, and things. So the methodology that I just showed you is doing something like this. We use these tools, as I like to call them, and we use them to put the puzzle back together. The code gets scattered out, and then we decode it, reverse engineer it, if you will, and we're going to use these methodologies to do that. I'm going to show you how they're all embed together, and it's one big Ponzi scheme. And again, mankind is not in control of this reality. So here are the topics for conversation during this presentation. Number one, the obvious. Number two, the astrology. Number three, Mars killer. And the fourth topic, the Tower of Babel. And that's going to be your theological piece right there, and it will blow your mind. But let's get into the first topic now, the obvious. And the reason why I named it this is because these are some obvious things as a decoder that you pick up on, and it's all in the numbers, ladies and gentlemen. That's why the flights, and when they took off, and they both took off from Boston, and the flight times, but how about the flight numbers? And of course, American Airlines is known as AA.com, and of course, what is AA? It's 11 because A is the first letter, and that's the 11 right there. But anyway, we have Flight 11 and Flight 175. Landing in tower number 1, tower number 2. You simply add those up. 11 plus 175 gives us a total of 186. And so now we bring this into mathematics to show you the code that's operating behind the final product, which is the movie that you're watching, because this is a movie. And the 186 is tied to the 1109. Now, using logic here, what does that number look like? And you could see that it is the 186th prime number. The obvious. 11 plus 175. The obvious. Okay? But wait, there's more. Here is the card, the tarot card, to get the picture of the World Trade Center as it opened, as it inaugurated on April 4th, 1973. It's very interesting, just for fun, right? That is Hugo Weaving's birthday, the man casted to play Mr. Smith in the amazing movie The Matrix. But anyway, it's the Four of Swords, and this is the sleeper card, the death card, if you will, right? These towers were already destined to get to this position. 28 years later, 2001. And it's so very coincidental that the man pinned for organizing all of this died on May 2nd, 2011. And that is the same exact tarot card. Just coincidentally, by the way. Put to death. So that, the inauguration date, has the same card as his death day. Coincidence? No. Scripted reality. This Four of Swords, ladies and gentlemen, now gets into Greek mythology and the god of the underworld called Hades, otherwise known as Pluto in the Roman. And the Four of Swords is tied to the Four of Spades, which is card 43 in the cards and their originations. The lineup of the cards, the Four of Swords is card number 43. This is card number 54, which is tied to Phosphorus and Lucifer, and we're going to get into Lucifer quite a bit, okay? So when you compare these two together, some more obvious, we take the inauguration day of this building, or these buildings, April 4th, 1973, and you take the birthday of this man, March 10th, 1957, and do the days in between. It's 5,869 days. And is that anything in mathematics? Well, yeah, it's a prime number. And again, like, okay, well, where are you going to go from here? Well, we're just going to follow this. Is 773 a prime number? You sure bet it is. The 137th prime number, and 137, if you've been paying attention, it's not only the fine structure constant, but it's tied to the number 56 in lights, camera, action, because it's tied to barium. But the 137, is that a prime number? Absolutely it is. And we stop here because 33 is not a prime number, it's a composite number. But the clue is there, ladies and gentlemen. The numbers, this is how the source code works, is now you have the 16th element in the periodic table. I told you we're bringing alchemy into this. Sulfur, and sulfur is fire and brimstone. Well, what happened during that incident? Fire and brimstone. The 16 is the protons for sulfur, matching the 16th card in the tarot called the Tower. There's your 33. Notice that the words Sirius and the word Shiva, the destroyer, tied to the Tower card. And what was this? The towers. Also, the subtleties, ladies and gentlemen, between these days, besides the 5,869, it's 16 years. 16 years. 16 years. Are you seeing how all this code works? 16 years. Let's keep going and move into the astrological position of this decode. That was the obvious. Let's check out the astrological map. And I have two maps. I have this one, and then I have a little bit with the Chinese. We're going to reference the Chinese on the outside because the Chinese zodiac comes into play here. And I'm using the masteringthezodiac.com. This, to me, is the most accurate astrological chart you can use. Masteringthezodiac.com. I will also be referencing the stellarium-web.org. This is also the most accurate rendition of the correct placements of each celestial during the days. And here is 9/11. Let's just move to 8:46 a.m. There you go. You can see the sun was in Leo, as was Venus. This is what we're going to be referencing. Here is the chart broken down. This chart uses the accuracy of the zodiacs being the correct sizes. They are not all 30 degrees. For instance, Virgo is the largest. It is not 30 degrees. It is much bigger than that. So that changes a lot of things. But this gives you the correct accuracy and the interpretation of how this event went down. Clearly up here at the midheaven position where the tower explodes. See, the energy comes from the bottom, the IC, and then it moves upwards to the midheaven, the MC, which was coincidentally in the sign of Gemini, which is the two twins, the twin towers, Gemini. We had a large cluster of energy up here. We had the mighty star Sirius, sits around 20 degrees Gemini. Sitting in the midheaven position, we also had the mighty Zeus, the largest Olympian out of them all. Zeus is known to expand things. Well, this time, Zeus was getting the energy of the explosion as it rose through the zodiac. We also had the north node of the moon, otherwise known as Rahu, the dragon's head. And Rahu represents the desire of the chart. The desire was obviously this, no brainer there. It was in this energy, by the way. Especially Zeus was in the nakshatra called Ardra. Let me zoom in on that and let me show you the definitions of this. Ardra's favorable is demolition, destruction, discarding objects, etc., etc. So this energy right here was all around the howling god of destruction called Ardra, and Zeus was there to expand it. Now in the Chinese, because I have the tiger here, see, the tiger is the third Chinese zodiac sign, and Gemini is the third in the astrology chart. So the tiger, and what is Jupiter known as? The striped planet. So why would the tiger be matched up with Jupiter, and why would Jupiter be in a nakshatra that means demolition and destruction? Well, because this is the way astrology works. The moon was here as well to give you the feeling. The moon makes you feel about these kinds of things. The moon being just over in the sign of Taurus, the bull. What's very, very interesting about the position of the moon and being right next to Kronos, Father Time, was that it was right across from Betelgeuse. Now let me just minimize this. Here's the map of 9/11 and 8:46 a.m. And you can see that right across from the moon was Betelgeuse. And Betelgeuse is notorious for being that star that has a bad rap of destruction. It sits in the constellation of Orion. And what is Orion doing? Hunting. It's hunting. Okay? It's hunting. So Betelgeuse affecting this celestial activity here. And we can't leave out the mighty Kronos. Kronos has everything to do. See, this astrological chart, ladies and gentlemen, this is a team effort. This is not just, oh, well, it's Saturn, it's Kronos. No, this is a team effort. This entire astrological chart is the great beast above. Make no mistake about it. It's the 616. And these celestials all play a role like a team. And you have so many other layers beyond what I'm showing you here. What's really, really interesting about the Kronos placement, being in the sign of Taurus, is that right across the way, literally directly across the way, in the sign of Scorpio, is the massive layer of destruction with Hades. Pluto. Already talked about Hades. You remember the slide that I showed you about Hades? Hades, just to refresh your memory, is right here. Tied to the card that is the inauguration. September 11th was born on April 4th, 1973, which is the Four of Swords, which is the death card of Osama, which is the card of Hades, because it's the Four of Swords, Four of Spades. And it's down here, ladies and gentlemen, Hades. Down here, just so happens to be across from Kronos. Right across the way, in the sign of Scorpio. And Scorpio represents power, explosion, along with Pluto down here in the second house. Remember, it's two towers. It's in the second house. We had right next to it in the sign of Ophiuchus. Again, the value of using this system, we include the 13th sign called Ophiuchus, which I think it's more the first sign. But we have the wound of Chiron here, and that's self-explanatory. The wound of Chiron, satisfying that aspect. And of course, the wound of Chiron is in the third house, and the third house's ruler is Gemini. So we go back up here to Gemini, and now we have the twin towers there. And we have all this activity having a symbiotic relationship with all this activity down here. Remember, the third zodiac sign in the Chinese is the tiger. And so the tiger sits down here as well. The tiger is the striped planet. Zeus getting that energy. We also have, which is why one of the topics I have is called Mars Killer, is because we have the god of war. This was an act of war. The Mars energy here in the third zodiac sign of Gemini again. Gemini representing the twins. And Mars is kind of the co-partner of Hades. These two are the co-rulers of Scorpio. Mars moved over just a little bit in the sign of Sagittarius. Sagittarius is ruled by Zeus, so we just come back up here. And Zeus and Mars now have a connection because of Zeus having the rulership of Sagittarius. And this is where the IC is, ladies and gentlemen. Like if you lay these towers right over the top of this wheel, it's going to sit right here. Right there. And that energy explodes, and there you go. It goes all the way to the midheaven position, where all this energy is. Okay. Over here, in the sign of Capricorn, ruled by Kronos, we have the primordial Uranus, who's the rebel, the outlaw, no rules, representing heaven. And then we had the addictions, Poseidon/Neptune, which I feel represents addictions. And now you have the sign of Capricorn being influenced by Poseidon, the water. And remember, Poseidon is the brother of Zeus, who is the brother of Hades. So those three make a connecting point. They form a triangle. The subtleties are there. But when you know how to look at this and you have the information about the Greek mythology, well, you have a lot more keys to this. Over here, on the ascendant, which is important, 8:46 a.m. is when this first thing happened. Well, there's the ascendant. And what do we have directly on the ascendant? We have the trickster called Mercury. And the reason why I have a snake there is because 2001 was in Chinese, was the year of the snake. And if you're watching this right now, I'm just reminding you, 2025 is the year of the snake again. What's really interesting is Mercury is the way you think. So when you have the way you think, of course, remember, if you're watching this and you watch the little video intro in the beginning, people are like, holy shit, holy shit. I mean, that's what everybody of us was doing. We couldn't believe it that it was happening. Oh my God, that's crazy. The impact this had on the world during the incident was monumental, not in a good way. Mercury giving you the way you think about it, the moon up here, the way you feel about it. That's why when you go on a honeymoon, it's the moon that's influencing that. So the moon tied to Saturn. Now remember, Saturn has no feelings. Saturn rules by way of non-emotions. And I could tell you right now, this is a computer. But anyway, that's for a different story. But the snake is right here. And in Chinese, let me just back this up. Let me move to the Chinese chart. In Chinese, the snake is tied to Virgo. The snake is the sixth sign. Virgo is the sixth zodiac sign. And so it was the year of the snake. Mercury was sitting in the house of the snake. And you can put two and two together what this means. Okay? You can easily put two and two together of what this means. Up here in the sign of Leo, we had Helios, the Lord of Leo, the sun, Helios. And this has a huge influence on here because this is kind of what illuminates everything. And the sun has so much to do with this reality. The sun and the moon do. This is the bride and the groom, forming the 88 pattern, the analemma shape as it moves across the sky. So these are a part of it. These are also, Helios is an Olympian, as is his sister Selene. These are all Olympians. Aphrodite, Olympian. We just had the Olympics in 2024. What do you think the Olympics is? Celebrating the Olympians. We had Aphrodite here. We had Venus here. Big time energy, because Venus represents the operation of this entire reality through the creation of love. And it doesn't have to be love in the sense of intimacy. It can be in the sense of this. Because Venus represents offspring, creating things. Something got created by way of what happened here. And I'm going to talk about that during the breakdown and the decode of it as we move further into this presentation. But Venus, Aphrodite, sitting there, right there with Helios. You know, when Venus comes in here, she wants to have all the luxuries and finer things in life. And when she moves into the house of Leo, well, the house of Leo it wants to play. Because Helios is here in its own sign. It wants to play. It wants to have fun. And then Venus comes in and she wants to have all the finer things in life. She wants to have everything. And it's hot in here. And heat makes things explode. Heat makes things explode. So, ladies and gentlemen, you can see I have a Tower card here. And you know, I'm going to get into it. I'm kind of giving this away now. But this is the theological. I told you we'd bring some theology into this. Yeah, it's Genesis 11 verses 9. That's the mirror of the 9/11 in the European countries. That's how you write it out. September 11th is 11/9 or 11.9. And you can see right there, that it says, therefore it is it is called Babel, the Tower of Babel, because the Lord confused the language of all the earth. This caused massive confusion. And it says that the Lord scattered them abroad. Yeah, because it caused massive confusion. That's what it did. And it still causes massive confusion because people still want to know what the heck's going on with this. And you can see, ladies and gentlemen, the numerology. If you want support, ironclad support, well, here it is. You see, Babel in Hebrew is the number 16, the Tower of Babel. And that matches the word Lord, as it says, the Lord scattered them abroad. And the 16th card in the tarot is the Tower. That's what these were. And they got taken down. And it was done by Shiva the Destroyer. So now I can easily mix in Hinduism and Shiva and move it right into Judaism and the Yod. And I'm going to talk about that as we get further into this presentation. Here are the cards that represented September 11th, and it's the King of Clubs. The co-partner is the Two of Spades. The Two of Spades represents up here the towers. The 26th card in the deck representing the element iron. I'm going to talk about how iron is tied to Mars and war. We're going to get into all that. And then the King of Clubs is the King of Wands. I'm going to talk about that as well. I'm going to bring all this together as we move forward into this presentation. So that was the astrological part, Chinese included. Okay, remember the tiger, Zeus, the tiger, the striped planet. And we have the goat down here and the monkey, and Sagittarius ruled there. Okay. But a big takeaway was the snake and the dragon. The great dragon got hurled down. The dragons can be tied to, and it was, the dragon is in the 11th sign of Aquarius, and Aquarius is an air sign. Okay, the great dragon got hurled down, could be tied to the planes or whatever you think ended up hitting that, but it's in the 11th sign of Aquarius, and that's an air sign. And we see that, Aquarius is the dog in Chinese, which is God spelled backwards. So you had God or the dog spelled across from the dragon, and the great dragon got hurled down. And you can see how the dragon's tied to the sun, Helios, and we had Venus in there as well. So, we get some activity in here that's not so friendly. And that's because we live in a dualistic reality. Okay? And this obviously was an act of destruction. And we're going to get into a little bit more of that as we move forward. So that was the astrological. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I'd really highly recommend sticking around all the way to the end, because I promise you, if you thought that was really interesting, you ain't seen nothing yet. And we're now going to get into the next topic called Mars Killer. So with this Mars Killer topic, I'm going to start here. And oh boy, was this a humdinger of a find. Which again, having a new set of eyes, I didn't look at this way, but September 11th was a Tuesday, which is a Mars day. And Mars, during this incident, was in the Archer, the killer, right? The Archer, the hunter. And it's pointing towards Scorpio. So when I go back to the charts, we have Mars in Sagittarius, the Archer, pointing back towards the wound of Chiron and the destroyer, Hades. Okay? This is how I view this astrology. This is how intricate it can become. But clearly, here's the big takeaway, that when you put in the numerology of Mars, the god of war, it just coincidentally matches up with the birthday of the man that was pegged for this incident, being born on March 10th. And this blew me away because I knew this date. And this date is connected to the movie Lucy. If you've seen this, and I've already decoded Lucy, but why would Lucy's birth certificate or her passport and have her date of birth the same exact day as this man right here? Why? Well, I'll leave that to some of you. I know why, but I'll leave it to some of you to break it down and go into it a little bit deeper. But what I will say, ladies and gentlemen, is that March is not just the third month in the calendars, because prior to the Julian calendar, thousands of years ago, March used to be the first month. And that means that September 11th can be the 7-11 instead of the 9-11, and the 7-11, if you've been paying attention, leads to the sun and the moon and Sirius and all that kind of stuff. But this would give us the 101 with this, the 101. And when you go and you look at through numbers, what the 101 is, it's the 26th prime number. And that's the card, the King of Clubs, for the day on September 11th. And on top of that, the 26th element is called iron. The iron, which is tied to the yod, because yod he vah he equals 26. So this is how deep you can go with this code. But again, the connections here from this, the Mars killer, being in the Archer, being at the bottom to go up to the top where all this energy was, especially the big standout was Sirius. This is just absolutely mind-blowing to me, and what the 10 means. And 29 is the 10th prime number, and we could go on and on. But 10 is the yod in the Hebrew alphabet. The 10th letter in the Hebrew is the yod, and it's tied to iron. And this is why in Israel they have what's called the Iron Dome. Okay, it's all connected, and it's all connected to what I'm showing you here. So it's just absolutely mind-blowing that this has the same day as that. Okay, and you can find a lot of connections between the two. But let's continue to move into this Mars killer. Notice that September 11th was the 254th day of the year. It was a common year. It wasn't a leap year, so it's 254. And I'm going to do some calculations with this. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add the number 68 to it. I'm going to add 68 to the number 254 for the day of the year. And you can see, using the trusty calculator, the number that we get. And you know that number. Many of you know this number. And what it's linked to. And of course, it's linked to this, which I've already decoded that organization. But what is significant about the 68? And why would I add it to the 254? And why would it have this outcome like this? Well, consider, folks, that Sirius, the mighty star Sirius, is tied to this number 68. And I'm going to get into it in just a few more slides, but I'm going to resort back to the astrological chart. And I didn't talk a lot about Sirius during the astrological breakdown. I was kind of saving it for this particular point, because you see, this right here is the original name for Sirius. It comes from the Egyptian word Sopdet. That's going to give you a number 31, and Sirius is the 100. And you see, when you say this is a very specific cipher for this organization, and when you say the 100, you get that 322, and the 100 is tied to the element, the mighty star Sirius. And remember that Sirius sits about 20 degrees Gemini. Gemini is the twins are the two towers. And down here, where the Mars killer is, sits in the third house, which is the house of Gemini, which is the twin towers. So this energy gets all of the attention from the destruction of this down here, going up to the midheaven position. And then when you bring chemistry into this, it finalizes this whole entire aspect where this element fermium has one of the isotopes 254, and fermium is tied to the founder of it, who was part of the Manhattan Project. And the Manhattan Project was about nuclear explosion. So when you start to look at this code, when you go deep within the code, you start to see how many moving parts there are, and how I just feel mankind could never get it all this way. The connection and all these things are just too big. So Sirius, of course, there's a lot of aspects of Sirius being our home. And, you know, in Masonry, it's not a secret that in between the two pillars of the sun and the moon, which is the all-seeing eye, is the mighty star Sirius, which is tied to the letter G, which is why it's in the compass. And even when you type in these words right here in Hebrew, which is the Ark of the Covenant, you ever see the show The 100, where they came off the Ark? Well, now you can see the connections. and they were prisoners. But the 100 is right there, which is tied to Sirius, and now the connection is pretty clear. Even if I'm using different languages, the evidence to support that the Ark of the Covenant is tied to Sirius, and why this organization, seemingly through the code, is tied to it. And I don't think there's any doubt about it. And you'll just have to be the judge on what you want to say. And remember, I'm saying from a neutrality standpoint, mankind's being used. That means this organization right here is being used, not in control of this reality, following their screenplay just like you and I, no matter what. But getting back to this 68 and adding it to the 254 for the day of the year for September 11th, getting that 322, the 68 is tied to the killing name. Remember, this is called the Mars Killer. And in 2008, Slipknot came out with an album called All Hope Is Gone. Now, you may not even know about this band. You may not be a fan of their music. But the message was crystal clear that this song, and this is what it is right here, is a 68. And all the lyrics add up to 6,066. How does it come out like this? Chaldean numerology now, right? The specialty of Chaldean numerology is decoding the world around us with the great accuracy. And it just doesn't stop here. It's tied to the 2 world wars. It's also tied to the invasion of Ukraine. So the 2 world wars, the first one, July 28th, and the second one, September 1st. When you add them up, you get 68, the numerology of them. And that's the number of the beast. The number of the beast is tied to the number 68. The number 68 is tied to the killing name. And the 68, when you add it to the 254, it doesn't get any more crystal clear than that. Gives you that 322, which is, that is, what do you think that is? What is the ending result after killing? Okay. Again, the position of these organizations. Okay. But you can see how, and if you read the lyrics here, we'll burn your cities down, America. We're in you. We're in you. Right? We're in you. There's the 68. And now it's pretty clear. Very, very crystal clear. Okay, of what this whole thing's about. So, as a decoder, I want to look at as many layers as I can. So I like to cross-reference with the calendar, the days on the calendar, to whatever number I get. So since 68 really is the number on the stage right now, I'm going to look to the 68th day of the year in the Gregorian calendar, and then I'm going to connect that to the cards of illumination, the playing cards, to see if there's any clues there. And oh my, was there a huge clue. Now, in the common and leap year, this is how we do this. We look at March 9th and March 8th. Those days through the leap and common years get the nod for day number 68. So I'm going to look both those cards. And the 8th of March gets the 2 of spades, which is the spirit card for September 11th. The King of Clubs and the 2 of spades. Of course, how many towers went down? The 2 towers. Besides tower number 7 and all that stuff, it was the main attraction was the 2 towers. This is the spirit card for September 11th. It's the card for the day of March 8th. And then we have the Ace of Spades, the card that precedes the 2 of spades, as also a card tied to the number 68. And then we just look to the numbers that these cards sit in the lineages of the cards. They're all numbered. And we get card number 40 and card number 41. In simple math, what's 41 and 40? 81. 81. And now we just go right back to theology. Told you theology would be part of this presentation. And this is the part of the 10 Commandments, Exodus 20 verses 13, and it's the number 81. You could see that the 68 is in this verbiage. Thou shalt not kill in Hebrew. There's the 68, and the total is the 81, which again matches up with those 2 cards right there, the 41st and 40th, and these are from the 68th day of the year, the common and leap. And we're just going to ride this now, the 81. So let's talk about the 81. Consider also, and this is what I got for a tally. I don't know what you saw, but if you go and research it, this is what is in the mainstream here. Again, I'm just going by what I can find. 2,977 people lost their lives. And when you just say that in numerology, Chaldean again, 2977, there's the 81. So again, do you see the accuracy of this? How dialed in this code is, and why is it coming out this way? Why is all this coming out this way? Well, let's continue to move into this. So I'm going to ride this 81. And I'm going to go to this element right here. It can also go to this element called thallium. But it's also tied to the isotope of the 35th element called bromine. What's up, bro? Bromine. Okay? Bromine. And you can see when you say bromine, it's 26, which matches the Yod He Vav He, which is 26, which is tied to the element iron. 56 is lights, camera, action. 35 is simulation. That's how all these chemistry elements are clues and bridges. You can see the color. Look at what's used for it to describe this. Fire, brimstone, thou shalt not kill. But that's exactly what happened under fire and brimstone on those towers on that day. Okay? So, continuing to move with this 81, looking at the calendar once again for the clue. What's the 81st day of the year? I mean, does it get any more obvious than this? This is the 322 again. So we have it here. We have it here. We have it here by the total amount of people that lost their lives. We have it here in Exodus 20 verses 13, one of the 10 commandments. It's Exodus 20 verses 13. The 13th card in the tarot is the death card. And we have it by way of the cards, which we found from day number 68 on the calendar, which is tied to the 2 world wars, which is tied to the number of the beast. I mean, how much more do I need to show here, really, with the connections? They're straight up. They're straight up. So I'm going to get into a layer now that I've done many times. If you want to fact check this, I would encourage you to do. Please be a skeptic. Go watch my Central Intelligence Agency. I did the same methodology during that, and I used the unofficial motto of the Central Intelligence Agency, which is John 8 verses 34. And I did the same thing, which is, this is the terminology that I'm giving it. It's called theo, as in, theology, theonumerology. And all you simply do is you take the chapter and verse that is the highlighted piece here, which is thou shalt not kill, right? And then you're just going to reverse engineer it. You're going to go, it has 20 chapters. So you use every chapter all the way to chapter number 1. And you just simply count up the verses using the trusty calculator. That's it. That's all you have to do. And when you add them all up, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to get the number 532, meaning you add up verse 22, verse 25, verse 22, verse 31, verse 23, all the way down, and you stop at 13. I think I have a typo here. That's not supposed to be there. But I would love for you to fact check this. I know a lot of you will. Please do. And what the number you'll come up with is 532. All the verses stopping at thou shalt not kill. 532. So now I'm going to chase this. And I'm going to look at it through the code, and we're going to do that through mathematics. Now, 532 is not a prime number. It is what's called a composite number. And you have all these numbers that are the divisors. There's 12 in total. And these numbers all have significance. But that's not what's important here. What is important is this pentagonal number that it is. 532 is the 19th pentagonal number. Remember that one of the flights crashed into the Pentagon. That wasn't the big clue here, though. It's the 19th pentagonal number. So now what I'm going to do as a decoder, I'm going to add up all 19 pentagonal numbers like I did here, adding up all the verses, right? And show the significance. And here it is. I just go to the website, decoded.co, the website we use to decode from. And I'm just simply going to use the pentagonal cipher. And I'm going to take the first 19 letters, because this is the 19th pentagonal number, for ease. So A through S. And this is what number we get. The full is 3,610. And the reduction is 91. And this is the clue, the 91. The other clue that we have is the 19th pentagonal number, which is the 532. And the letter that it represents, the 532, is the letter S. S as in sun. S as in Sirius. Are you serious? Well, consider that sulfur is tied to fire and brimstone. It's got one of the isotopes of it, of the 33. Keep in mind that when you add up Exodus 20 verses 13, you get the number 33. And in the tarot, to get the picture, we have the Tower card, which is exactly what this incident was all about. On top of that, the Hindu god Shiva the Destroyer is tied to this number 16. So the S is the starting point from the number 532 and the 19th pentagonal number, but it quickly leads to the 16th element called sulfur. And if you're not convinced, well, we're just going to go to the elements. We're going to go to the numerology again, and we're going to type in the word hell. That's tied to the number 16. We're also going to tie into the word fire. That's exactly what happened during that incident using that. We're also going to tie in the word serious. Are you serious? Yeah, I'm totally serious. And now you can see maybe what that S is standing for. Now, where do we go with this 91? Well, I'm going to connect it to Thomas John Ellis Hooper. Who's this guy? Well, he's just the actor they casted to play Lucifer. And I know some of you are probably sick and tired of me showing this character. But I have no choice because this is what keeps coming up. This is his full birth certificate name with his mother's maiden name on the back end, and look at what number that we get, you see? And of course, the devil represents killing. Killing, it's tied to this element called protactinium. It means the first. And this is Thomas John Ellis's birth card, born on November 17th, 1978. The 16th card in the deck. How about that? But is this just a mere coincidence that he gets the 16th card in the deck, and this is the 16th card in the major arcana, and the 16th element is sulfur, and it's got a big fat S on it, and the 532 from the 19th pentagonal number is the letter S. Well, no, of course not. When you connect all of this together, you can see how this code's playing out. And it's so beautifully orchestrated despite the ugliness of this incident on that day. So we're going to take a look at him and show you how he is being used as a character. And I have no, I enjoyed the show. I'm sure I've watched interviews. He's a fun guy. He's done, this and that. Like, he was born in Cardiff, Wales. If you go look at the flag in Cardiff, there's a big dragon on it. I mean, it's ridiculously scripted. So I'm not insinuating anything about him having anything to do with the incident here on the world stage, any of this. But what I'm showing you is that he got casted to play the devil, Lucifer, and he's connected to the tower, Shiva. Lucifer is tied to being Shiva the Destroyer, which is one half of the Christ, because Jesus says, I'm coming with a sword, and that's what it means, which is also tied to Samael, the angel of destruction. They're all connected because it's a Ponzi scheme. Notice that November 17th, Thomas John Ellis's birthday, is in the leap years. There's that 322. And so now what I'm going to do is simply add up and do the numerology of Thomas John Ellis's birthday. Simply doing the 11/17/1978, we get a total of 125. This reduces down to the number 8. And then we do the numerology of the September 11th attack, 9/11/2001. We get the number 41. And then we're just going to simply add up 125 and 41, and we get the number 166. And of course, this number is tied to the tetragrammaton. If you do that in the English A through Z, you're going to get tetragrammaton. But then we just bridge it with chemistry to get the clue. And look at what we get for the clue here. We get this element called erbium. The average is 167, but it's the 68th element on the periodic table. 68th element, ladies and gentlemen. So, what are we to do with this? Simply taking this gentleman who's an actor on the world stage who played Lucifer Morningstar, and the code is so defined in this guy's life right here. I mean, again, Cardiff, Wales, when you go to that, I'm just going to do it on the fly, right? When you do Cardiff, Wales, and you do the flag, it's got a freaking dragon on it. What are the odds that he's born in a area in the world that's got a dragon on the flag, and Lucifer's known as the great dragon that got hurled down? Are you seeing how ridiculous this code is? And he's born on the 321st, 322nd day of the year. Come on. So this is not stretching anything. These are all bridges and clues, ladies and gentlemen. When you know, and again, this methodology continually being able to be utilized again and again throughout this presentation. So what I want to say here, ladies and gentlemen, once again, is that my final answer is we live in a scripted reality, and mankind, man, woman, are not in control of this reality. We are just merely players on the world stage, like the great band The Rush sang. We are merely players, movers and portrayers. So there you go, scripted reality. So that leads into the final topic here, the Tower of Babel. Tower of Babel. And this is where it gets super interesting. This is where it gets biblical. I told you we'd be bringing theology into this, and now we're doing that. And this is the scripture that kind of promulgated the taking down of the towers. At least I know it's connected to it. And when I show you these connections, ladies and gentlemen, are absolutely undeniable. They don't need your permission, but these are undeniable when you look at the connection, just simply connecting the dots. First and foremost, there is the day that's connected to this scripture. Okay? And the big takeaway is the God of the Bible, Yahweh. And this is, taken from the Yod He Vahe, which are just 4 simple letters: the Yod, the He, the Vav, and the He, or the Yud, however you want to pronounce it. And the numerology of that is 26. And what does 26 add up to? The number 8. The root of the number 26 is the number 8. This guy's numerology is an 8. Who, again, I'm not saying he's the Yod He Vahe, but what I'm saying is it's a very good possibility that the Yod He Vahe is Lucifer. And the 26 is tied to the card that was attached to September 11th. Coincidence? No. This is talking about confusing people. The language. Confusing, and it was a tower named Babel. Babel. And it was tied to iron, folks. You see, the Yod He Vahe is iron. Iron, 26. Iron. This is the card of iron, the king of clubs. This means mental mastery. Okay? Iron. Iron. This was on a Tuesday, folks. This happened on a Tuesday. That's Mars Day. Mars was in Sagittarius, the hunter. Yod He Vahe, iron. And if you've been paying attention, lights, camera, action, because we're in a movie. Okay? Iron. The Iron Dome in Israel is Ra'el. So, now we connect it simply to the Tower of Babel. Here is Babel. And here is Babel, the numerology of it. Again, just keeping it in the original language of Hebrew. Look at what the outcome is. 16. What is the 16th card in the tarot? The Tower. What are these? The towers. And we can pull Hinduism into this because now we cross over and filter Shiva the Destroyer, which has nothing to do with Judaism, but has everything to do with Judaism. Shiva. The dance of Shiva. Okay? These are undeniable connections. This scripture, which is 9/11, is talking, this is the Tower of Babel. And this is the theological, the allegorical, this is the realistic, the movie now playing out. That's what all this stuff means. I promise. So, before I move into some more layers, let me talk a little bit about the cards. I just have one slide with this, and to show you how this system is bulletproof. We first look at the Master Spirit Spread. I've already talked about this. This is the Master Boilerplate Spirit Spread chart. It doesn't move. It governs over all of the other charts. It doesn't move. It's fixed. And here is the King of Clubs, the card that was for 9/11. And then here's the Spirit card, the card that was the governing card of the King of Clubs. These are the two cards that are tied to September 11th. And I just have here on the life spread 28, because the towers were 28 years old when they went down. So here's life spread number 28. Remember that here's the inauguration. They were destined to be put to sleep. Well, right here, I have it squared out. This is the birth card of the Twin Towers, the Four of Spades. So now we come back to this chart, and we have the King of Clubs here, the card for September 11th. And the way this card system works is you start here, and this becomes the solar card, and then you move right to left. Just like Hebrew language, you read from right to left. So you start here, and you go Mercury, Venus, and then you come down here and to the second row, and you start here, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. So what's here is this card here, which is the taking down of the towers. And if I come here to the Two of Spades, which is the Spirit card, we come and we go Mercury, Venus, and now we have the same card sitting in the Venus line. And I come back up here to the Venus card in the King of Clubs spread, and it's the 28th card in the deck called the Two of Diamonds, the Towers. And Venus, astrologically, was sitting in the house of Leo, companioned by the sun, the dragon, sitting in the house of the dragon. Okay? That's how all this stuff connects. And when you know how to use this system, it's bulletproof. Bulletproof. Remembering that this is the card tied to iron. Iron, an act of war, folks. All right, so we're almost at the tail end of this, and I want to jump back to here again, and I just want to show you what this looks like using the tarot. And again, knowing that it's the Yod, which is the 26, which matches the card for 9/11. And now I want to talk about this other scripture that it leads to, and it's Isaiah 45 verses 7, which again, it has the Yod here. And this is a scripture saying, I create calamity, I create peace, I make darkness, I create light. I, the Lord, do all these things. I, the Yod, do all these things. So it's the same title as in Genesis 11 verses 9. Same energy, saying that it creates the calamity right here. And this is calamity, folks. And the calamity is called Ra. How about that? It's Ra, ladies and gentlemen. And this is why you have this, which I already decoded, called the Eye of Shalom. Shalom meaning peace, meaning good, meaning this. And Ra, meaning destruction. That's what it says here. I make peace and create evil, calamity, Ra. And this is the numerology for Ra, 36. And this is the 36th tarot card, the King of Wands, which comes from the King of Clubs, which confirms that Isaiah 45 verses 7, which is God saying, I make peace and evil, which matches Genesis 11 verses 9, which is the Tower of Babel and confusing the people. You now have a direct connection that's undeniable here. And we want to measure this, which I've done before. I'm going to do it for those of you that have never been here before. Well, what's Isaiah 45 verses 7? When you bring it into mathematics, 457 is the 88th prime number. And that ties to Ra, the bridge. This is calamity. This is Ra. It's right there. This is how important chemistry is with theology. And this is why we have 88 keys on a piano. And the 88 keys on a piano are what color? Black and white. Peace and evil. Darkness and light. This was the Tower of Babel. Taking it down, folks. This was theological. From the Torah. Now this is the Old Testament now. But same energy, same title for the God here. Okay, same energy. So Ra's the big takeaway here. And what is Ra? Well, now you got to go back to ancient Egypt. So now you have ancient Egyptian stuff in here tied to Judaism, which is tied to the Hinduism and Shiva and Brahma and Vishnu, being the God, the acronym for generate, operate, destroy, calamity and peace. Shalom Ra. This. Peace and evil. Calamity. So what is Ra? Well, how do we find it in mainstream? How about the White House in Washington, D.C.? How do I have that connected there? Well, it's Lib Ra, and the White House has everything to do with the constellation or the zodiac sign Lib Ra. And you see, Lib Ra is radium, and radium has the 226 for its weight, its isotope, and radium 226 has a half-life, meaning it decays over time, half of it, in 1,600 years. And I wonder why the address for Washington, D.C.'s White House is 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Do you think this is a mere coincidence? It's also a wonder why Google's headquarters is in 1600 Amphitheater Way in Mountain View, California. Go check it out. Google's headquarters, the largest collector of artificial intelligence, has the same number for its address. Coincidence? 1600. Right there. And now, just like that, we connect theology to mathematics, alchemy, and mainstream, and also Google, the largest collector of artificial intelligence, because their headquarters is 1600 Amphitheater Way in Mountain View, California. Not an accident. All tied to, and this is the Alpha and Omega. I am the Alpha and Omega. Yeah, it's tied to Ra. And you got to figure out what's Ra. If you're someone who's a fan of the Law 1, right? So here is the ending part of this. This is where you're going to get your Shalom and Ra. Here it is. Here are the original words. And we go to the original language and get the numerology and look at what we get, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, is it not apparent? It's the 88. Remember, 8 plus 8 is 16, and 16 is the Tower card. And 1 plus 6 is 7, and 7 is the sign of Libra, the Alpha and Omega. So you're now seeing this? It's easy to see it once you have all the connecting points, and it's this. This is what it is. This is what it comes down to. And you get the flower of life in here. I've already covered this in my Eye of Shalom Ra, Decoded, etc., etc. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. The very long decode, probably over an hour, I would imagine, of the September 11th incident, and an incident that no one here that was born during this time will ever forget. But now you can see it was a scripted event. That is my final answer, and this is my support that I would use against anything else to show that mankind, humankind, people are not in control of this reality. Final answer. Well, anyway, ladies and gentlemen, would love to hear what you saw. I know a lot of you are probably chomping at the bit to type away on what you saw. And I just want to make it clear, these are my opinions and truths. You don't have to agree. But if you don't understand or know how to decode, don't just dismiss it. And please don't leave a nasty comment, because I promise you I'll delete it. I have no toleration for that. You don't have to agree, but just be cool about it. All right? So I'd love to hear what you saw. Keep your comments coming. And that's all I got for today. My name is Logan for Decode Your Reality. Until next time, we will see you later.